Testing, 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 testing. Always good things.
Good, are you? Were you the one that spilled all your lunch on your desk?
It was intentionally.
Well, some of it does.
is the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission's regular open meeting. It is Thursday, April 9, 2026 at 10:01 a.m. So we'll go ahead and get started with our meeting with a roll call.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Here.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Here.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Present, yes, sir.
All commissioners are here and you have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. So first thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance and State Pledge, so we'll do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among United cultures. Okay. Commissioners, we have an agenda before us today. It includes 2 consent action items and 3 regular action items, and then also a discussion and potential action item. Is there any discussion on today's agenda that you would like to raise?
I move that we proceed with the agenda as posted. Second that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Commissioner Nyberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Yes.
The motion to proceed with the agenda as presented passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So next we have announcements, and I have a few. On April 22nd, we will have a hearing on a stipulation reached in SPS's application for approval of purchase power agreements for 6 battery energy storage systems. And that's docket number 2585 UT. It'll be a virtual hearing. On April 23 that's going to be our next open meeting, and we have a workshop on seasonal readiness. And each utility, investor-owned utility, and the co-ops will discuss how they're preparing for the summer season with electricity use peaks. The presentations will start at 1:30 p.m. and are open to the public, both in person and online. So on April 6, 2026, the commission met in closed session, which was properly noticed pursuant to NMSA 1978, section 1015(1)(h)(3). That is deliberations by a public body in connection with an administrative adjudicatory proceeding. The deliberations regarded dockets on today's agenda, which include docket number 18383 UT, docket number 264 UT, docket number 2555 UT. And so want to affirm for the record that the matters discussed were limited only to those specified in the notice, and further affirm that no final actions were taken in the closed meeting. And so, as you can see, those are items that are on today's agenda. And as the commission continues to refine its processes and facilitate procedures that allow for us to make reasonable and informed decisions, that is a process that we have instituted. And so you will see that going forward. Let me see. Commissioners, want to see if you have any announcements that you would like to make at this point. No? Okay. Also want to mention, and I'll talk about some of this at the future meeting, but with respect to regional markets, there's progress being made in the Western Interconnection. The RTO West, that's a part of SPP, has gone live, and the California Independent System Operators extended day ahead market will go live very soon as well. And so obviously that affects us here in New Mexico as well with our utilities. And so we'll keep monitoring that and really look forward to these markets facilitating access to cheaper electricity for our customers and also opportunities for our utilities to be able to sell electricity in those markets to the benefit of New Mexicans. Well, that is all I have by way of announcements. If there's nothing further, then we could move on to our public comment. And just as a reminder, we'll go ahead and get started with public comment from any public officials, if we have any either in the room or online, and then we'll move on to public comment on items on today's agenda. And then we'll move on to public comment on any other matters that the public would like to comment on. At our regular business meetings, we limit public comment to 30 minutes total and 3 minutes apiece. And so I'll go ahead and take a look around the room and ask if we have any public officials here wishing to provide public comment. Do we have any public officials online?
Mr. Chair, we do have one, Senator Pat Woods.
Okay, well, Senator Woods, welcome. Thank you for appearing today, and we'll turn the floor over to you. And you're on mute if you're speaking.
Thank you very much. Technical problem.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Senator Pat Woods, Senate District 7. I serve on both the Legislative Finance Committee and the Senate Finance Committee. Commissioners, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today and to support the Blackstone PNM merger. The Santa Fe New Mexican stated in May of 2025 that this deal was valued at $11.5 billion. It has been approved by the Federal Energy Regulation Commission in early 2026, but still lacks your approval. I believe Blackstone provides the financial strength to modernize the grid and enhance the reliability that is a key factor to me, while accelerating the clean energy mandate of the ETA. Blackstone has indicated that its business model would be use his own capital and not add to the PNM debt load. There are some projections that residential bills could be reduced by 3.5%. There is also the debate today about data centers, both if they should be built and will microgrids be used to energize them. There are water issues as well as those electric issues. Personally, I believe as long as the general population wants to use their iPhones, iPads, or other products like that, the data centers or clouds will continue to be built. Technology will certainly evolve as to the need of computing capacities increase, but such things as quantum computers will be reduced to the size of coffee tables and replace those computers that have large utility requirements of today. New Mexico can no longer be an island. RTOs are the future, and the Mexican consumers will draw on other power markets for low-cost electricity. New Mexico needs large investors for grid infrastructure. This is a chance for out-of-state money to reduce the burden on local ratepayers so that the grid can be modernized. Thank you very much for the time.
Mr. Chair, we might have one more. I see someone on Zoom with the name iPhone. Are you here for public comment?
Do we have any other public officials online wishing to provide public comment? Okay, it seems that we don't. Senator Woods, thank you for your comment. So I want to open up the floor to public comment in person for any of the agenda items that we have on today's agenda. Is there any public comment on today's agenda? Okay, it looks, ma'am, you raise your hand. Is your public comment on items that we're voting on today? Okay, yeah, and so I'll move to other public comments now. And so first hand I saw raised, so please come on up and press the button on the microphone to turn it green. And Senator Woods, I thought you were unmuted. I was gonna suggest muting, but you're muted now. Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead with your comment.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Brenneman. I live in T. Harris, and I oppose the Blackstone acquisition of P&M. I'm going to talk briefly about what I've learned about Blackstone, not just in the context of this particular buyout, but the broader context of the type of company it is, who they are, and who they really serve. Blackstone's own website describes itself as a champion for investors. There is no mention of serving or caring about communities or people. In 2019, the United Nations human rights experts informed the world that Blackstone is responsible for the global housing crisis by buying cheap properties, implementing massive rent hikes and outlandish fees, neglecting basic maintenance, and ultimately treating people's homes and livelihoods as commodities. A couple of the accounts I read from individuals who have had the unfortunate experience of calling a Blackstone property home described massive sewage backups that took weeks to resolve and being charged $100 late fees for rent that was paid only 1 minute late, even when the reason was because the Blackstone payment website was down. Meanwhile, Steven Schwartzman, CEO and founder of Blackstone, has multiple estates in different countries, is worth nearly $50 billion, and an issue that sort of struck close to home, as we've mentioned, there's a water scarcity and resource concerns in New Mexico. During a drought in the area of his England estate, he had water hauled in to fill one of his ponds, because that's what's important to him. Not the drought of his community, but the ponds on one of his estates. Blackstone likes to justify their greed by stating that they follow all laws and regulations, which is exactly the point. They will find ways to legally bleed you and your community dry, and you just have to deal with it because there's no law saying that they can't. At best, Blackstone views us as a commodity to be acquired on behalf of its investors. In reality, they want us to play host to these giant parasite companies and the people who run them. They are massive parasites that view these communities as host, and we need to send them a message. Communities are not commodities. We don't want that here in New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. So is there Additional public comment? Yeah, and we can take yours, ma'am.
Are you calling on me, Lisa Marie Bird?
No, we're doing the in-person public comment first, and then we'll move on to public comment online. Thank you. And
Okay.
if
Okay,
the-
thank you.
It's
Yep,
green.
it's green,
Is it
then
on?
you're good.
Okay. My name is Julie Curl. I'm a resident of Los Ranchos. And I thank you for your very well thought out comments. I'm not quite so detailed. I will just say, what is BlackRock? It is, or Blackstone. It is a massive public or private equity firm, possibly the largest in the world. It's got a GDP larger than most countries in the world. What does a private equity firm exist to do? To make massive profits for its shareholders. As has been pointed out by the previous speaker, it has no community ties. It has no, it puts all these shiny promises in front of us, as the good senator, as evidenced by the good senator's comments. I think he's been a little hypnotized by those shiny promises. But I too have done reading about what it's done to the housing market. And the data centers, I understand. I like my phone. I like streaming on TV, but we have a water problem in New Mexico. What have we just been reading about the Rio Grande? There's many aquifers around the state that are in the red. Albuquerque's aquifer is good for the moment, but only for the moment. The climate is heating. We just had our warmest spring on record. It is projected to be continue heating for the next 50 years. And I want to have water to drink. I want to have water to bathe and cook with. I don't want it to go all to these data centers. And most importantly, I don't want BlackRock to be running my electric power grid, because yes, I've read that they think it'll be a 3.4 rate decrease, but that's probably for the first couple of years. And then we, the citizens who rely on PNM for our electricity, are going to be paying for the electricity for those data centers. I not for 1 minute believe that we are going to have sustained rate decreases. Also, we have these promises that we're going to be getting electricity from other states. But I've also read that a lot of the electricity produced by the BlackRock enhancements is actually going to go to other states, most specifically West Texas, I believe I read. So anyway, I'm very emotional about this. I probably didn't make as much sense as I hoped because I didn't come prepared to speak, so I don't notes. But I will just end by saying it will be an incredible disservice to the citizens of New Mexico if the BlackRock purchase of PNM is accepted. Nothing good will come of it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Ma'am, with the hand raised. Thank you for your comment and engagement, and please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes so that we can fit. We also have people online who want to provide
Just
comments.
wave me down if I go longer. My name is Carol Thomas. I live in Los Ranchos also, and I firmly don't support the Blackstone proposal. I agree totally with what Julia said. I agree totally what you have said. Sorry, I don't remember your name. It's a private equity firm, and all you have to do is research what private equity firms exist for. And they exist for their shareholders. They exist for making money. They exist for going in, buying things, businesses, stripping the assets out as much as they can over time, and then raising rates or moving on. We don't need that here. Yes, we're a small state. Maybe we're an island, but you know what? I kind of like that. I know we have to run the state in a way that will be financially responsible and for the citizens. I am saying to you as the PRC, which I understand is an organization or a commission that exists for the state, for the citizens of the state, that you take that seriously and you do not give Blackstone the permission to move into this state. And I do want to say, I hope that you do not give permission, authorization for any data centers. All you have to do is read about all the communities in the country already who are opposing data centers, because the ones that have them are having their quality of life ruined and their resources drained. Thank you.
Public comment, person?
Not seeing any other in-person comment. Patrick, can you please check online?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we do have one more. Lisa Marie Bird, go ahead with your comment.
Hello. Yeah, Shikejo Stotinet, She Lisa Marie Bird, Yanishia, Todachini Bashachi, Bitani Nishle. I am the chapter president for Upper Fruitland, and I want to thank, excuse me, the commissioners today for giving the time. Sorry, there we go. Apologize. Okay, thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Lisa Marie Bird, and I serve as the elected president of the Upper Fruitland chapter of the Navajo Nation. Our community is located just west of Farmington, New Mexico, in an area where energy and industrial operations have long played an important role in supporting our local economy. These operations have provided steady employment for our skilled Navajo workforce and have contributed revenue to both our tribal government and San Juan County. I am offering comments in support of the proposed acquisition of TXNM Energy and its subsidiary PNM by Blackstone Infrastructure. Upper Fruitland chapter has maintained a positive working relationship with PNM for many years through its community outreach, responsiveness, and willingness to engage directly with our local leadership. We understand that if this acquisition is approved, the level of community engagement we have come to rely on will continue under Blackstone's ownership. Maintaining that relationship is essential for communities like ours that depend on consistent communication and partnership with the utility. The proposed community benefits associated with this acquisition present an important opportunity for tribal communities. As the energy sector continues to transition, our people must have access to training, skill building, and pathways into new jobs that will shape the region's future. A dedicated resource for workforce development would help prepare Navajo workers to participate fully in emerging clean energy and infrastructure projects. This is not only an economic benefit, it is an investment in our young people and in long-term community resilience. There is also potential for meaningful improvements to energy infrastructure on tribal lands, including the Navajo Nation, by strengthening transmission systems, improving reliability, and expanding access to rural communities. With Blackstone's long-term investment capacity, this acquisition could support upgrades that benefit both the broader region and the Navajo communities that have historically been underserved by aging infrastructure. From our perspective, this acquisition provides the financial resources necessary to support economic growth, expand charitable and workforce training programs, and continue the transition to clean energy in a cost-effective and responsible way. These outcomes align with the needs of our community and the values we uphold as Navajo people: stewardship, opportunity, and long-term stability. For these reasons, I respectfully ask the Commission to consider approving the proposed acquisition. The Upper Fruitland chapter has formally taken action to support this transaction and will be submitting our chapter resolution for the record. Thank you for your time and response and consideration. And I would just like to say, again, thank you, because we, the Navajo people, we've been impacted by these energy sectors, and we have learned to work with them. We have learned to benefit with them. We have learned many things about clean energy, and we would like to support them. So a majority of our Navajo people are skilled workers that work in the energy sector, and this should be the number one focus, is who are impacted. And in my opinion, people that do not live here, that are not from our region, have no understanding of the economic growth and economic stance that we have in the Four Corners in San Juan County. So again, I appreciate your time. And again, be safe and yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's it for public comment online.
Okay, and I'll just check one more time because I think I was on mute last time I said this, but is there any further public comment in person?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Do you mind? We'll go ahead and take you online, and then we have one additional public comment in person. So
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not as prepared as most folks came up here, but my name's Arnold Lopez, and I'm currently the mayor here in the village of Santa Clara outside of Silver City, one of the municipalities, one of the 4 municipalities here in Grant County. I'm just here, I was hearing some of the comments, and I'm just here to support PNM. You know, I think that we've had some really good meetings with them. This is my 3rd year in office. I think we've had a really good relationship with PNM around the southwest corner. And not only that, but we've also seen some good growth of how they're helping us out with the wildland fire situation here, with putting up cameras and being supportive of the communities and taking care of the folks and having open public comments meetings with the folks about this. I think it means a lot to that, you know, just because here in the Southwest, we all know fire season starts really early and it ends when the monsoons come. Myself being a retired Forest Service person also, I've seen devastation fires come and go, and I think PNM has really reached out to not only the communities, but also to the working folks out there and trying to keep them safe with different avenues of working with the folks here. So I just want to say that, you know, I do support PNM, and I think they've worked really well with us here in the Southwest, at least with my community. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time, Commissioners and Chairman.
thank you for your comment, and we'll go ahead to move to the last in-person public comment. Turn it over to you. I think looks like you're unmuted, so please
Yes,
go ahead.
ready to go. My name is Shelley Baquet and I live in Rio Rancho. And I oppose the acquisition by Blackstone of PNM. And I just want to support the people who have voiced their concerns with that. I've always lived in New Mexico thinking that we're a very independent state and we take care of ourselves and we rely on ourselves. And I cannot see any overall long-lasting benefit that Blackstone will offer the state of New Mexico and us as citizens. So that is they are a huge giant company, make profit, and that's the bottom line. Thank you for my input.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, then that concludes today's public comment portion of our agenda. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is approval of prior meeting minutes. Commissioners, we have a set of minutes for a regular open meeting that occurred on March 26, 2026. Are there any revisions or any discussion on that set of minutes? Okay, so no, I'm not seeing anything. So I would then move to approve the minutes for the regular open meeting that occurred on March 26th.
Second.
Okay, so let's take a vote on that.
Commissioner O'Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera?
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg?
Yes.
The motion to approve the minutes from the March 26th, 2026 regular open meeting passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. On the consent action items section of our agenda, we have 2 orders that are included. Commissioners, is there any discussion on the consent action items?
I move to adopt the potential orders on the consent action item agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, so we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Nyberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Yes.
The motion to approve the two orders in the consent action agenda passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on then to the regular action items. The first item is docket number 26 for UT. This is an item that will be presented by Mr. Russell Fisk, a member of our General Counsel's office. I think the mic is ready for you, so we'll turn it over to you.
There's a little bit of a delay when you're watching it.
I'm impressed at how you're always deliberate at
Keep them waiting. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this matter comes before the Commission on the formal complaint of Scott and Dolores Rapoli against PNM. The Rapolis allege that PNM disconnected service to the address where they were living on December 1st, 2025. They further allege that such disconnection was in violation of the Commission's winter moratorium rule, the Commission's prohibition against disconnection in instances of medical necessity, the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act, and the quote-unquote consumer protection provisions of the Public Utility Act. The proposed order that I prepared for you would dismiss the complaint with prejudice and would hold that the winter moratorium protections provided by the Commission's rules are inapplicable because the Rapolis are not residential customers of PNM. They are not the name on the account. They themselves admit in their complaint that the name on the account is Celso Chavez, who they claim is their landlord. So they're not actually residential customers, as they must be under our rule to qualify for winter moratorium protections, and also because in order to qualify for winter moratorium protection, there cannot be a past due amount on the account at the beginning of the winter moratorium season, which was November 15th, 2025, and there was a past due amount from Mr. Chavez. The order would find that the medical necessity protections provided by the Commission's rules are inapplicable. First of all, again, because it only applies to actual residential customers of utility, and also because PNM does not have the required medical certificate on file. Our rule actually has the form certificate within the rule itself. It would also find that the Commission lacks jurisdiction to adjudicate the Americans with Disabilities Act claims, as that is a federal statute, and the Commission does not have authority to adjudicate that statute. And it would also dismiss the Rapolis' vague and uncertain, quote unquote, customer protection claims under the Public Utility Act, because the Rapolis didn't actually identify any particular statutory sections that were allegedly violated, which they must do under our rules of procedure. And with that, I will take any questions.
Commissioners, is there any discussion on this item?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to thank Russell for his long-suffering patience in dealing with this matter. And, this matter was difficult for all of us, and one that frankly highlighted one of our rules, and that's the ex parte rules. It's important for all parties who file complaints to recognize that the Commission should not be receiving statements outside of the docketed record. It's the record that's important. It's not the statements outside of that. And in this case, certainly highlights that and the maybe continued delivery of ex parte communications throughout the course of this docket. So I appreciate Mr. Fisk and his advice and counsel to us, as well as his having to do the research necessary to result in what we have before us. So with that, I would move that we adopt the order dismissing complaint with prejudice in docket number 26-00004-UT as presented.
I'll second the motion and check just once again whether there's any more discussion. Okay, so there being no further discussion, we're ready for a vote.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilar,
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Yes.
The motion to approve the order in docket 26-00004 UT passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda. So this is docket number 26-5. Again, we have Mr. Russell Fisk to present, so floor is still yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So this matter comes before the Commission for a proposed order reopening the record, issuing a schedule of proposed filing fees, and setting a deadline for responsive comments. This rulemaking proceeding began because the legislature, during its 2025 session, amended section 6213(2) of the Public Utility Act, which concerns administrative fees that the commission is authorized to charge. Previously to the amendment and currently, the statute sets certain filing fees charges, charge of $1 for filing any rate schedule, service rule or regulation or sample form or amendment thereto. And that generally is something that would come before the commission on an advice notice. That's $1. And for filing each application, petition, or complaint, $25. Now, the 2025 amendment added language providing that, quote, the commission may increase by administrative rule the fees set forth in this section in amounts that do not exceed the cost of administrative proceedings before the commission. So the commission opened this rulemaking proceeding to consider amendments to our rules of procedure, specifically section 1.2.2.8 concerning filing fees, and issued a notice of proposed rulemaking, or NOPR, with proposed rule amendments that would have provided that the commission could change the filing fees on an annual basis or less frequently, and that the commission would post any such fee increases by July 1st of any year in which the fees were increased. The commission received comments in the record from, in response to the NOPR, from utility division staff, EPE, PNM, and New Mexico Gas Company. EPE and staff in their comments argued that the commission's proposed rule amendments did not conform to the language of the amended statute. They argued that the language in the amendment, quote unquote, or quote, must demonstrate in such a proceeding that the increased fees comply with the amendment's requirement that the fees do not exceed the cost of administrative proceedings before the commission. So in light of the comments from staff and EPE, the proposed order would provide a schedule of filing fees that the commission would propose to adopt in this proceeding. And that would be for any rate schedule, service rule, et cetera. In other words, for an advice notice, $10. For an application or a petition, $100. And for a formal complaint, $25. And there's a lot of detail in the order as to how those figures were arrived at. And the order would first state that these proposed fees are far below the cost of administrative proceedings before the commission. And the order would include an unsworn affirmation from the commission's Director of Administrative Services Division and our Chief Financial Officer, Miranda Mascareñas, who would affirm that the costs of our new docket management system for 1 year for licenses and support is over $430,000. And on a per docket basis, using 2025's number of dockets as the example or the number to use for the denominator, the annual cost of the software alone would be $4,841 per docket. Now, such costs are only a portion of the costs of administrative proceedings before the commission, as those costs would also include, for example, salaries of me, for instance, and administrators, advisors, and other professionals working for the commission. So that amount, $4,800, is not even including all the potential costs. But because the filing fees that are proposed in this order are far below that amount, there's no need for the commission to look into whether exactly what the administrative cost should be, because they'd be higher than that number, and we're staying well below that. To arrive at the specific figures, the calculations take into account the relative complexity and costliness of different types of proceedings, with applications and petitions being generally the most costly and extensive proceedings, and advice notices generally being the least costly and extensive. They also take into account inflation as per the Consumer Price Index, as applied to the $25 and $1 fees in the statute. And also we looked at filing fees that are charged in other states, such as Wyoming. Wyoming has a statutory $100 fee for one of its types of applications. Unfortunately, when it comes to looking at other states, there's such a wide variety of how different states do it based on their statutes that there wasn't a lot of comparable information. And some commissions, like Texas, actually fund themselves through charges that are passed through to customers on bills. It's kind of gross receipts tax. So, but there was some information that we were able to glean from other states. The order will provide interested persons with a chance to file comments responsive to the proposed schedule of fees by April 29th. And with that, I will take any questions.
Yeah, so just a quick comment before we go to the discussion. The commission received some of this substantial changes to this yesterday. I did review it, but I'm going to suggest that we take more time to consider the revisions and not vote on this order today. But that's my suggestion, but I thought it would be worthwhile to leave this on the agenda to see if there's any preliminary discussion.
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple things, and Mr. Fisk, the comments by one or more utilities that we have to go through rulemaking every time we want to increase fees, you've apparently accepted that comment because we're now doing it by rule instead of having fees set annually through a less complicated process. And are we sure that the statute did not give us the leeway to have rules, have fees set through a less formal process and opening up a rulemaking every time we want to increase fees?
Well, I do think that EPE and staff made a pretty strong argument based on the language of the statute itself, raised by, it says increased by administrative rule. And I think that there is a strong chance that the Supreme Court would read it as, well, every time you increase it, it has to be a rulemaking. So that's a possibility. So that's part of it. But also EPE cited case law from the Court of Appeals in New Mexico concerning the Mining Commission, Now, their statute is a little different, but their rules were scrutinized for whether they actually showed that, and they did this through a rulemaking proceeding, whether they showed that the administrative costs were truly above what they had, what they were setting their fees at. Now, their fee structure is a little different, but I do think that if we were to stay with the proposed rule in the NOPR, I think there's a decent chance we would get an appeal, and we might lose that appeal. I think there's a pretty good chance that we would, because other agencies do it this way. They do it in rulemakings, and they generally put their fees in the rules.
Well, I know a lot of government entities that are capable of revising their fee structure without going through a rulemaking process. And I thought that's what we were trying to do. And so I think delaying this a little bit might help, and we're reopening the record, so we get more comments, I guess. But that may be one that we need to look at further. My second comment is if I read the order, the revised order correctly, you've done away with Exhibit A, yet in paragraph 23, let me see. No, it's there's still a reference to Exhibit A. I'll have to look at it. Since we're not going to vote on it, I'll try to find it again. If there isn't a reference to Exhibit A, we'll need to delete that. And then the other thing, since we're reopening the docket, the comments by EPE and maybe others to have some ability to deposit funds into an account and draw on that account to pay for the filing fees. You said that it was beyond the scope, but now that we've reopened the rulemaking, could we not include that within the scope and deal with that issue as well? Because it makes some sense to me, particularly for the frequent filers, to be able to draw upon an account that's internal within the PRC, rather than having to write a check every time they come before us.
Yes, I think we could consider that. The idea of the order was that, the commission would, doesn't have to consider that given the scope. But I think because the scope of the NOPR was to change filing fees, we could consider possibility of a different form of payment. We might get, and if we take that out, if we bring that out for comment, and people have had a chance to respond, so that we could consider adding that.
Then I would suggest that you look at paragraph 23 and maybe revise that to reflect that that's an item that we would like to have input on in the rulemaking process, and maybe discuss with staff whether or not there's a mechanism for us to have such an account internally to draw upon those funds when they do make their filing.
I will do that.
Those would be my comments, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion on this item?
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation, your and other staff's continued work on this item. Also appreciate the comments that were provided to the first attempt here. And as you can see, we are seriously considering those, and we have potential refinements that have been described here, and further conversations to have on this. So We'll move on then. I don't think we need a motion to table, do we? Looking at my council.
No. Mr. Chair, you could make a motion to postpone the debate on this order until a specific time. That would give people who are paying attention some notice of when we're going to talk about it again. I think we were talking about doing it at the next meeting.
I would make Mr. Chair, I make a motion to postpone action on this item pending further refinement by staff and looking at some of the issues that we've raised today.
Okay, I'll second that and just want to note that the motion did not include the description of taking this up at the next meeting, which I think is fine because, you know, I think it's possible that it could take a little more time than that. So, so I think we have a motion and a second.
Commissioner O'Connell,
All vote yes.
Commissioner Aguilar,
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Yes.
The motion to postpone action on docket 26-5 UT passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have docket number 2555. We have Mr. Will Mount to present. Press it to turn it green. There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners. Permission to approach the table? Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. This matter concerns PNM's application for a CCN to construct and operate 30 megawatts of battery energy storage systems consisting of 5 6-megawatt 4-hour lithium iron batteries on 5 PNM distribution feeders at 5 existing PNM owned solar facilities. The total anticipated project cost is approximately $80 million. And I did the math, and that equates to about 16 million per project. Now, staff recommended approval of the project, subject to a few future PNM informational filings. Regarding permits and reporting, PNM agreed to make those future filings. The hearing was vacated, and thus what is before the commission is a proposed final order, which includes all of staff's recommended future informational filings. And with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the order or anything else regarding the order.
Just for clarification, we have 2 options that you handed us for a footnote. Are either of these included in the proposed draft?
Yes, Commissioner. In the updated draft that is in board effect, option 2 is the current option. And I wouldn't necessarily say that we have 2 options. I just know that potentially there might be disagreement concerning the options, but both options are legally defensible and appropriate.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page on what we were talking about. Commissioners, would either of you like to open this up for discussion?
As the person that created the need for the footnote, I'll start. Just first of all, thank you, PNM, for filing this as a CCN. That is certainly acceptable. I just wanted to make, provide guidance and clarification that going forward, we want to get to a world where these are viewed as normal course of business. And so something that certainly can happen is when you file your distribution plan, if you get the plan approved and these are in that plan, then we're pretty much done, right? It's just 440 and procure prudently. So that's just trying to communicate that as an option for the future. And then certainly if you've got an application for something like this ready to go right now, between now and when you file your distribution plan, if you don't, we'll have to look at it, right? So it kind of depends, right? So what the communication I'm trying to make is, why are we requiring planning to try to minimize things and try to speed things up? So if you had a distribution system plan that showed why batteries at these feeders was in the public interest, then wouldn't have had to do the belts and suspenders of a CCN filing. So that was really the point I was trying to make here. And then to just establish a baseline in this order that distribution system plan that's approved, really, there shouldn't be any question whether that's a 440 filing or not. Personally, I'd also add, if you do a good job with your plan, there might be some space in between approved plan and accepted plan to where you've at least told us, hey, these things are coming and why they make sense in the bigger context. That also might qualify for a 440 treatment, but don't want to get ahead of myself, right? So anyway, that's why this footnote says distribution accepted distribution system plan, you're in 440 lane. Not saying that there aren't other possibilities there, but just trying to take advantage of the opportunity that these distribution plans create and tell people that, hey, you're getting something if you pursue approval. So anyway, that's why something I just was going to say anyway, suggested to me that, hey, it's even better than saying it. Let's put it as a footnote in this final order. So that was what I was working with Will on this week to try to get that in there. And I obviously that what I described is what's called on this piece of paper, the option 2 footnote. The option 1 footnote, I think, creates a little bit of risk for utilities that it encourages them to do 440. My experience with give somebody an inch, they'll take a mile. I don't know what they would run with under that encouragement. And then we might be in the even unhappier place of, hey, wait a second, this is way more than a 440, back up and try again. I don't ever want to be in that situation. So I think option 1's a little risky.
Mr. Chair, my only comment more goes to the formatting. We're moving toward some new formatting of our orders, and I understand why we're putting the numbers in parentheses instead of just having the number there. But in the order section Roman numeral 5 on page 40, we continue the order section with letters in parentheses, and personally, I'd rather have capital letters A, B, C, D, not in parentheses, but just because it'd be order paragraph A, order paragraph B, whatever. Not a big deal. I'm not going to suggest that you make the changes now, but I'd like OGC to maybe look at that issue, because it just looks odd to me that the order part should have more boldness to it. So that's my only comment. And if we, on the 2 options for the footnote, if we are going to consider option 1 footnote, I would have some comments on the language there.
Commissioner Nyber, I'd be happy to make those changes in this order. But going forward, I will take that into consideration and talk to the team about it. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for, I'm more focused on the footnote part of it that has this discussion of the distribution system plans. And just in trying to think about this, and I think just at a high level, I tend to agree. But backing up a little bit from from that point, we have the CCN statute, and then there is a specific provision or provisions in that piece of the statute that explain how the commission will evaluate CCN requests for battery energy storage systems. And then thinking about that and how we get from that to the footnote in the order, I think there is a way. I mean, council said that both options are legally justifiable. And so I'm thinking, on the other hand, whether that's the right thing to do in this order. We do have parties here that intervene, so clearly they are interested in evaluating and reviewing these types of proposals from the utilities. I think if we include this footnote, I'm not sure if we're eliminating an opportunity for those stakeholders to continue to engage in the same way. I think at the end of the day, 440 process still allows for opportunity to evaluate whenever the utility is seeking cost recovery. Staff will still have an opportunity to review the 440 report. So I'm not suggesting that it's not possible. I'm just wondering whether this is the right time for that. And that's what I was debating in my head as I was reviewing the footnote. I actually was more comfortable with the first one that I thought said a little bit less. The second one, again, it's hard to say that I disagree with it. It's more that the process and how we're arriving to it and whether it's the right time to do that.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mount, the order that I have in my book, footnote 137, looks like it's the first option. So you changed it on board effect to the second option.
Yes, Commissioner Nybert. Yesterday was a busy day.
Okay. And if we are going to consider the option one footnote, we just need to work on that last sentence a little bit. But I don't know whether it gets traction or not. So I'll save my comment if
certainly we can consider it. I mean, if it's the will of this commission to implement this policy in this order, we can definitely then talk about how to review this option. So I don't know if maybe the right path here is to first vote on whether to include either of these footnotes and then have a discussion on that. Or I mean, I think we can still discuss it even without that motion.
Well, if that's the question, I think the footnote does provide some guidance that I think the utilities would appreciate from the commission. Because right now we have a CCN and they may not recognize that we are maybe desiring, that may not be the right word, but maybe desiring the utilities to take more seriously the distribution planning process. And what I hear being argued is that last meeting, or meeting before last, that discussion, utilities can decide which way to go in their distribution planning. They have to file one. They can choose to go through a more arduous process and get it approved, or they can just simply file it. I think this helps reinforce the idea that maybe in the future, they ought to spend more time on that planning process because it gives them benefits down the road. And this footnote, I think, is a footnote that illuminates that issue. And so I think the footnote's necessary. Now, whether it's footnote 1 or option 1 or option 2, I'll leave that more up to you guys to hash out. But the idea of having the footnote, I think, is important, and I think it sends an important message. And I hope the utilities would take to heart. And I realize that this first go around on distribution planning is probably just going to be a filing without the approval process because of the timing that's inherent there. But I hope in the future they take that planning process seriously and go through the extra effort so that we have a document that gets approved, gives them long-term reliance on the ability to institute that plan. And this would be one of the things that would be included in that if I understand the argument correctly. So I'm in favor of having the footnote.
Yeah, and then just reminder, one of the reasons for having that option in the distribution plan rule was that the utilities then get to pick when do they want to do the adjudication, right? If you want to adjudicate the plan, you get something for having done that. And so this whole business about their interveners and other parties involved, they will be involved in an approved plan process. So that's what I was hoping to do, is tell people we can get past the conversations we've had over the last 3 years of, is this normal course of business, by do a plan, get it approved, and then you've got something that you can run with. And it's not like we're just choosing the moment that people will adjudicate it as upfront rather than at the end after the utility's done a lot of procurement work.
Okay, I want to offer a couple of suggestions. The first one is I don't read the intent of this footnote as to say like this is the avenue you need to take. I think the option of filing a CCN even without a distribution system plan is still available. And so I want to make sure that we're not removing that avenue from the utility. And so I would suggest including a statement that clearly identifies that the utility still has the ability to file the way PNM filed this. And I don't know if maybe that's controversial, because then that motivation incentive that you were talking about, Commissioner Nybert, goes away, but in some way. But I think it's important to preserve the opportunity for the utility to choose how they want to file this. And then the other suggestion that I would have is this is important. It's changing policy. I don't think it should be in a footnote. I think we should elevate it to somewhere in the body of the order. Are there concerns with either of those suggestions?
I didn't read the footnote as being so limiting on your first point. And the second point, I don't even see it as a change in policy, because the statute provides the exceptions. We're just pointing out that they can take advantage of an exception that's statutorily granted in pursuing this other alternative, and maybe encouraging them to do the planning up front and with the distribution plan and go through those extra steps So they then can have the reliance and fall within that exception, but I don't see this as a change in policy. I could be corrected on that point, but I don't see it that way.
Well, I don't want to, I guess, undermine what the commission is doing here, but the statute discusses CCNs for most projects, provides an opportunity for an exception, and then separately discusses CCNs for these types of projects. And so the fact that the statute already provides for the exception, I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm just saying that it's worth considering that it doesn't.
Commissioners. So I'll note that we do have a CCN statute, and then we have that ordinary course of business exception, correct? And then we also have an additional part, I believe it's 62.9, part section E of the CCN statute that discusses specifically batteries. So historically, this commission has never interpreted with regards to the ordinary course of business, whether battery projects can fall within the ordinary course of business and be constructed via Rule 440. There was a prior case a couple years ago where that was said, and then I would note that here in PNM's application, they asked us to make an interpretation regarding this. It was in the direct testimony, like not in the application, but it was in there. So I just would say that either option is defensible, but it would be nice to give a little bit of clarity here to utilities.
Yeah, and that's why adding that specific, I also don't read this footnote as limiting, but that's why I also think that adding that specific statement is clear that we're not limiting. So I think it adds clarity, though there's no disagreement that about the intent of the footnote.
So are you saying option 1 does that?
I've been focusing on option 2.
So what you're arguing is not for option 1, but you're arguing that we expand with footnote in option 2.
Yes, to clarify that we're not limiting the utilities option to propose a CCN. This is in addition. That's what I'm advocating for.
I don't have any problems with that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that, and I also I'm an engineer, so if the word's on the page, I don't care if it's a footnote or a paragraph, it's on the page, so I think it's worth it to add utilities. Here's a benefit you get from an adjudicated distribution, however we do it.
Well, I would argue that it should be in a footnote because it's really a tangent to the case itself. It really doesn't have anything to do with the case. It's pointing out that we're providing advice or reviewing this and sending a message, not just to PNM, but basically to the other two utilities that hey, we're wanting to maybe be more robust on those distribution planning processes. And this would be one benefit that you might be able to secure some benefit down the road should you go through that more arduous process up front. So I would keep it in the footnote myself.
Well, I certainly agree that it's tangential to the case, which is another thing that I've been struggling with. Is that I think if another party raised this and presented this to us, we could easily say that the suggestion is beyond the scope. And that's something that I'm struggling with here. However, seeing the appetite for including this suggestion, what I'm trying to do is work within it and help it, but I do see this as a change in policy. And I don't, in the interest of being transparent, I don't think that it belongs in a footnote.
I'll note that alternatively, I would be more than happy to draft a declaratory order on the subject. Not to sign myself up for more work, but I could write something in the future regarding this if the commission desired.
Yeah, I mean, the larger question that is directly before us is with respect to the application that the utility filed here regarding these BESS projects. This order would approve that application. I fully support the reasons behind approving that application. And so I think with respect to the additional conversation that we've been having here, we're probably ready for a motion, to entertain a motion. And I mean, you know, this footnote is not going to change how I'm going to vote on this application, because I think this application should be approved. And so, yeah.
Well, then I'll make a motion to include within this order a footnote 137 and allow the chair to revise it to accommodate his concern. And then we can, if that passes, then we can vote on the full order. I would vote that we include footnote 137 using option number 2 as presented in front of us, with the opportunity for you to make appropriate revisions to address your concern.
Yeah, I'll second that. And then to clarify, and just on, you know, to clarify the discussion that we just had, are you so does your motion include discussing this in the order in a footnote, or was your motion more general about the footnote and including the context of it in the order?
No, the motion was dealing only with the footnote and giving you the opportunity to include whatever language you felt necessary in the footnote to address your concerns that the CCN is a proper avenue to pursue if they wish to do so. I didn't have a problem with expanding the footnote. So that my motion would be to approve footnote option number 2 at 137, and to allow you to expand it to address the concerns you raised earlier.
Okay, I can vote on that. Then in that case, I would also issue a concurring statement explaining that I disagree including this information in the footnote, because I want to highlight it. I think it's a policy change. I don't think it belongs in a footnote. And I think a separate concurring statement would clarify that. Okay, so I think then we're ready for a vote.
Commissioner O'Connell.
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera.
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Yes.
So the motion to approve the order with footnote 2. Sorry.
Not approve the order, approve placing footnote 137, option number 2, with the ability of the commissioner to add to it. That was.
Yeah, so I think we're discussing
the
only
footnote.
the footnote.
We're only on-
Sorry, I
Yeah.
jumped ahead. The motion to approve footnote 137, version number 2, with the chair's revision to add something in there to address his concerns about what we're saying about CCNs, passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Is there any discussion on the larger order?
No, I move that we adopt the order proposed.
Okay. And I will second that. I think that the projects that PNM has proposed here will add value to the system and just, which is also why I struggle, kind of with, I think the intent of the policy that we were just discussing, I think is a good one. Battery energy storage system, neither generation nor transmission, but has the ability to be an alternative for both and provide the benefits that generation and transmission combined provide. And so, yeah, I also agree with this. I'm forgetting, did we vote yet? Or was I discussing?
Well, we have voted, but we have not
On
voted
the larger order.
We have not voted on that
Okay,
yet.
did we get a
Is that your
second?
question?
We don't have a motion yet.
We have a
Oh, wait.
motion.
We have a motion.
We have a second.
We have a second.
We have
Okay,
not
so that
voted
was the
yet.
discussion. Okay,
We were
sorry.
having discussion.
Yeah, so motion and second, and that was my portion of the discussion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so we'll go ahead and do a vote now. We have a
do that.
motion and a second.
Commissioner O'Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguilera,
Yes.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Yes,
The motion to approve the order in 2555 UT passes unanimously, Mr. Chair.
All right.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, and so that concludes the regular action items section. So we'll move on next to the discussion and potential action. We have Miss Erica Avila Stefans here to present this item. Floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So this is in the matter of Socorro Electric's advice notice from 2018. This is a very long and complicated, has a very long and complicated history. So I am only summarizing the information that's relevant for today's discussion. In 2019, the Commission issued a final order that adopted fair and just and reasonable rates for Socorro Electric, which Socorro Electric appealed. Later on, the Commission was made aware that Socorro Electric had failed to charge the rates adopted by the Commission in its final order, despite not having received a stay from the Supreme Court on that final order. And the Commission began imposing fines of $1,000 a day until Socorro Electric came into compliance with the final order. The fines accrued for several years until the Commission agreed to suspend the fines in exchange for coming into compliance with the final order until the outcome of the appeal was determined. The Supreme Court later affirmed the Commission's final order, and upon remand, the Commission assigned a hearing examiner to determine how to reconcile the rates for the period of noncompliance and explore methods of recovering the fines, which had accrued to upwards of $900,000. And in exploring methods for recovering those fines. There was also a suggestion to explore alternative actions Socorro Electric can take in lieu of paying those fines. And a stipulation was reached by the parties in this case. So the commission asked Socorro Electric and the parties to come present the terms of those stipulations. And I will pass the mic over to I think Socorro Electric.
Yeah, we can do that. And while you're getting ready to come on up, thank you for being here. I wanted to mention a couple of things. Wanted to explain to the parties that this is not intended to be an evidentiary hearing, but a public and open forum for presentation of the stipulation and open discussion between the commissioners about their thoughts generally on this case. Also, excuse me, that if the commission elicits any information that is not already in the record, the commission will ensure that the question is entered into the record to allow parties to confirm the information and to ensure that it is entered into the record appropriately. And all parties have had an opportunity to respond. And so thank you again for being here. I have a couple of questions that, you know, I thought could be helpful for getting the discussion started. And can you please tell us how long it took to reach the stipulation in your presentation with the signatories, and also highlight any key terms of the stipulation?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Dan Najjar representing Socorro Electric. We started discussing with the parties. My involvement began last summer, and I would say settlement discussions began in earnest in July, and we reached an agreement approximately mid-fall. I would say there were several dozen hours of discussions and negotiations to reach this settlement with all the parties.
Yeah, thank you for being here. If you could please, you know, introduce yourselves and go ahead and get started with your presentation and including a summary of the stipulation. Thank you.
Ronnie Montoya, CFO with Socorro Electric.
Good morning, Chairman Aguilera, Commissioner Nybert, and Commissioner O'Connell. My name is Manny Gonzalez. I'm the CEO of Socorro Electric Cooperative, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for allowing us to come before you. If I may start out with some general comments. The more than 1 year path in this 8-year journey that I've been on came up with 4 checkpoints I'm labeling. The first one is obvious, at least to me. Socorro Electric Cooperative serves 8,800 members in the beautiful state of New Mexico. The state of New Mexico is regulated by the PRC. Socorro Electric Cooperative has an obligation and responsibility to abide by any decisions the PRC makes. My checkpoint number 2 is under the PRC. We get a snapshot of what it looks like. We were granted the opportunity to work directly with the interveners. That was a lot of collaboration. In approximately 5 months, we were able to deliver checkpoint 3, an uncontested stipulation, in a matter of 5 months. The checked up point number 4 that Socorro Electric Cooperative is excited pending the PRC's decision is to go forward and to serve our members based on the stipulation or uncontested stipulations that we agreed. So we're looking forward to that opportunity. I brought Ronnie Montoya, our CFO. She is much smarter than me. She's going to give a roll up of those stipulations.
Thank you so much. So in general, there were approximately 12 bylaw amendments that were requested by all the parties involved. The stipulation states that we would be hosting a special meeting for those once it's approved, but we actually have those bylaw amendments on our annual meeting that is coming up this next week, on the 18th. So those bylaw amendments have already been submitted to our members for approval. And 9 bylaw changes. And then we had 4 policy amendments that were requested as well. I believe 3 of those 4 have already been implemented. The board has already approved those bylaw policy changes. And the one that hasn't been done is pending the actual outcome of the approval by the commission. And then we have not done the refunds yet because we are waiting for the approval of the commission for those refunds as well. And I just would like to say that during this process, working with staff and the expert witnesses of the parties, tech and the city of Socorro and Mr. Steinert, it was a pleasure to work with them and to be able to come to an agreement on the calculations and the numbers that were agreed to. So.
And commissioners, if I may add, at least 3 of those have been approved. 9 bylaw amendments have been mailed out to our members already. In addition to the bylaw amendments and the policy changes, we've already launched a member advisory committee that has been on Facebook. We've got a mailer out. It's on our website. That was part of the stipulation, but I want to highlight those because the collaboration that went into the uncontested stipulations, there's timeframes pending the PRC decision. However, we felt so strongly and agreed with that opportunity that we were granted to collaborate directly with the interveners to come agreements based on their concerns that we felt it was appropriate. We felt that was appropriate to go ahead and begin changing those policies, announcing for the member advisory committee, and getting the bylaw amendments on the ballots.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to add one thing just to clarify. The bylaw amendments primarily go to improving transparency between the co-op and its members, and more importantly, making it clear that part of the fiduciary duties of the trustees is to comply with all orders and laws and regulations that are applicable to the co-op. Those were not clear in the existing bylaws, and that was requested by the interveners and agreed to by Socorro, all of which are up for approval at Saturday, a week from Saturday's annual meeting, and have been properly noticed. Would you like more detail, Mr. Chairman, on what the specific bylaw amendments are? We could go through them one by one, or was that summary adequate?
Well, I'm familiar with them. Thank you for the presentation. Commissioners, would you like a briefing of the bylaw amendments?
No, I appreciate you being here today. It's kind of a short notice, and also I've read the record here, so the summary is very much appreciated, and to me it reflects what I've seen. So thank you. I don't need to go blow by blow through the amendments.
So I want to turn it over to the commissioners to see if there is any discussion here. Commissioner Nyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're in a very unusual and frankly difficult position. The conduct that got us to this point is, it wasn't just one step or one misstep. It was a continuation of actions that not only involved this commission, but frankly, it involved the Supreme Court of New Mexico. And the board and the former executive director of the co-op appear to have been on a course that brought us to this moment. And I'm really sorry that the three of you are sitting here in front of us, having to deal with issues that, frankly, cleaning up somebody else's mess. And we recognize that. But it still puts us in a difficult position as well. You know, in reading the bench request responses, none of the board members left. None of the prior board members left because of the conduct that they had embarked on over the course of their tenure with the co-op. In fact, one's still there. A response was that, well, the board could rely upon advice of counsel. Was there any malpractice action filed for the what I consider pretty faulty advice if it were given? And I doubt that has occurred. And then, you know, they can rely upon the advice of counsel, but only if it's reasonable not to follow the rules of the commission. I don't know that you can come to that conclusion. It's disappointing if it is. The other thing, there's in the stipulation, there's a lot of reference to what you all can do, and you can't force the membership to vote a certain way, and this stipulation recognizes it. But if we approve the stipulation, we have no hammer over you either. We've given up our power because basically everything's resolved in that stipulated settlement. Entities are kind of made whole. I would argue not quite, but the parties that overpaid will get some reimbursement back. But because they're paying into that, query whether they're paying back themselves. So there's a couple things like that. I appreciate that you've told us that you're meeting a week from Saturday. Maybe some of those issues will be resolved by a week from Saturday, April 18th. Maybe some of our concerns will be resolved by that point. But I do have a few questions that I've been kind of reined in. I have a lot of questions, but on advice of counsel, they've told me this is not an evidentiary hearing, and that we basically have to rely upon the material that's already in front of us. So I'm just going to ask some basic questions from what I see before us, and maybe a couple questions about the workings of the co-op. But specifically, what steps have you taken, and what specific provisions are in the stipulation that ensure that your board now, presently, April 18th, and in the future, does not advance a course of action that is a flagrant departure from the rules of this commission and court rulings?
Right, policy changes are done by the board, so the immediate one speaks to the fact that we actually inserted PRC in the language of that policy, and the violation, or that the board has to execute their fiduciary duties and then abide by federal, state, local, and regulatory body, but we inserted PRC specifically. We're going to back that up, hopefully, on Saturday with a bylaw amendment, prove it with the same language.
And I saw in there that there would be some training and some other events, as well as this oversight committee, and I guess bringing in some ethic responsibilities. All seem to go in that direction, and I certainly appreciate those efforts. And Mr. Gonzalez, I want you to know that I think we have every confidence and everything that we've heard from fellow co-op members is that Socorro Electric's being run properly now. And unfortunately, like I said at the beginning, you're having to deal with this. The evidence reflects that all the prior board members, except for one, have been replaced. And is that one board member still a member? Is he up for re-election on April 18th or what's that situation?
He is still currently serving. He is actually the chairman, and there was only two up for election, or actually they're uncontested. They had nobody running against them or nobody that was qualified. He is not up for re-election. May I add something, Commissioner Nybert?
Yes, sir.
He was on the board, or he was the board chairman, along with approximately four others that made the decision to hire me and specifically tasked me with members, community, and PRC. Since I've been in this role, I've had no type of pushback or no type of lack of support for the direction we're going. When I view board actions, I'm not saying anything that you all don't know. One board member doesn't run the co-op or make all the decisions. You rely on board, you rely on general counsel and the co-op and the CEO. But those decisions got to be made with your members always as a priority. And again, in my service in the cooperative world of over 30 years, I was in Arizona. They are regulated by a commission. New Mexico is regulated by a commission. We have an obligation and responsibility to abide by commission rulings. And I feel very confident inserting those in our policy and our bylaw. It gives other board members and myself and our members that if there is any strain from that, we have the actions to take to stop that.
Do the terms for your board members, I assume they're staggered and so many are up each year?
That is correct,
Yeah.
Commissioner.
And how long is the term?
That's 3 years.
I did not see anything, correct me if I'm wrong, in the stipulation that prohibits board members who have engaged in decisions that were not in the best interest of the co-op to seek and to serve on the board and now or in the future. I saw some removal provisions, but I didn't see any prohibitions. Am I reading that correctly?
No, that's correct, Commissioner Nybert.
How does the stipulation terms get the attention of your members of the seriousness of the prior actions of the board that have undermined the integrity of the co-op?
Part of the uncontested stipulation, we agreed to put a letter out to our members using several communication mediums, including the local newspaper, explaining the detail that's in the uncontested stipulations. So if the commission's approved, we will grab that and then it'll be out for public. We want everybody to know what we went through because there's one of the hearing examiners pointed out, made a great comment that essentially the system worked, the PRC worked. We were allowed to work with the interveners directly, and when you see different leadership, when you see the understanding of the cooperative model and our obligation to follow PRC, abide by the PRC rulings, this is the outcome of it. And I want our members to know that. And our cooperative principles list democratic control, but sometimes that message isn't as clear to the members. And along with placing that in in an article, we're going to educate and post different trainings in those member advisory committee if we get members, or we'll look for all other alternatives that doesn't happen, to continue to educate our members on that democratic control that they have.
Well, we say it works, and this is one of those cases, justice is maybe too slow, because you guys are having to deal with it, not the people that created the mess. And part of that's frankly our fault too. This thing's drug on for years, and we need to bring this one to finality, hopefully shortly, and get us on a path. We also need to look internally and see how do we address these types of situations in a more prompt fashion, so that 7, 8, 9 years go by and we're still dealing with the same issue. We need to make sure that we don't allow these things to drag on and linger.
Commissioner Nyberg may mention one more item of note. As educating our members, I've had at least one town hall explaining the bylaws and encouraging our members and them understanding that it's a path of transparency and accountability for our members and for any operations or anything going on at our cooperative. So we've done that through a cooperative corner that went out to all 8,800 members. I've done at least one town hall, and we're going to continue to promote that as well.
Thank you. I also requested Mr. Martinez from the Rural Electric Cooperative Association to be here to hear this discussion and to hopefully be able to convey our concerns, not just to you, but I think it needs to serve as an example to all the cooperatives, because we don't want other cooperatives to be facing similar types of things. And I think one important message that needs to be sent out is that people that serve on these boards, it's not just fun and games and getting to go to a legislative reception once a year in Santa Fe and getting to go to parties and things. It's work, and it is responsibility. And I think you mentioned fiduciary responsibility. They need to be people that are capable of dealing with those responsibilities and carrying out those responsibilities in a serious manner. And it's very unfortunate that in this case, you had a continuation of decisions that ignored orders and decisions that frankly reflects that there was a disregard for the very responsibilities and particularly the fiduciary nature that they held. And that's troubling, but I think the message that at least I want to convey, and I think the commission needs to convey, is that all the people around the state serving on the boards of the cooperatives, and frankly, all the people serving on the boards of all the entities that we regulate, they need to take those jobs seriously. And we have a number of small water co-ops we're dealing with issues that are causing us some concerns. So, the message that I hope you can take back at your annual meeting and elsewhere is that we want the boards to recognize the responsibilities that they've signed up for when they're elected to those positions, and that they need to give it serious thought, and they need to give it their best effort. And that doesn't mean they have to just agree with everything Mr. Gonzalez says or everything Ms. Montoya says, or even advice of counsel Mr. Dan Najar says. But they have to independently look at the issues, use their mind, use their experience, use their education, come up with reasonable responses and reasonable conclusions, because that's a statutory duties, and always looking out after the best interest of the cooperative. I want you to also know that we really appreciate you all appearing here today, and we appreciate your taking on this very difficult task the past few years and getting the cooperative back on what I consider to be what appears to be a sound track. And I know you have a great lawyer beside you that can guide you through those things. And so everything I've heard has been fantastic, and we're glad you're on that course. Unfortunately, we have to deal with some issues that you're in the position of having to deal with now. But thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
May I briefly respond? I cannot agree more with you. I do want to add that when applying for this position, I read the articles. I saw what was going on. I signed up specifically for this challenge because I felt I could bring value with my 30 years of serving in the cooperative world. It's a member-owned cooperative. The interveners really helped us, and that's the technical term, but the interveners are also our members. They had their legal teams. One of the interveners made a great statement that, hey, we see what you're doing, but we want the cooperative to be in good hands regardless of who's in that CEO position or the board position. They made a recommendation, which was to reduce waiting 3 years for them to get their cooperative credentials certificate, which doesn't make them perfect, but it certainly provides the avenues through education and on at least beginning to lay the foundation to understand your duties as a board member of governance and oversight. So on the bylaw, we have that reduced from 3 year to 1 year. That's especially important because now you can do it online if you need to. But that came out from the interveners. And if you look at now the checks and balances we have in place through our policies and the bylaws, it's making it easier for if you come into a situation, all right, PRC's made a decision. You can have all your discussion. If you come into a situation, the fork in the road where you disagree, you just refer to your bylaw, which clearly states you have the fiduciary duty and responsibility as a board member to abide by the PRC rulings.
Well, once again, thank you for being here and for your presentation. Just checking my notes that my counsel gave me on how to run the session. So, Commissioner, do you have any questions for staff?
No, I think I have proposed to Office of General Counsel maybe some ideas as to how we should move forward, and I think they need to probably meet and discuss those issues, and then maybe come back to this commission with some thoughts and ideas. And well, I don't want to postpone this very long. I think the issues I've raised are going to take a little bit of time to sort out, and so I hope that there's a time to do the research and maybe come up with some of those ideas to maybe advise us, and maybe there's a way moving forward with that. That's what I would suggest, or that's what I've discussed, and would suggest that we give Office of General Counsel sufficient time to look at some of those issues.
Okay, and since we have other parties, I do want to offer the parties an opportunity to say anything if they wish. As I mentioned earlier, our general counsel's office will present the questions that were asked today, and the parties will have an opportunity to respond if they so choose, just to make sure that we're good on that. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to have some general conversation also about cooperatives. And Commissioner Nybert, I think you've already done that, and you did a good job of that. I mean, I have thoughts. We don't have an order before us today to vote on. I'm probably just gonna save my comments for later, but I do want to emphasize some of the comments that Commissioner Nybert has made, and that's with the tenor of the position of current leadership, which is a drastic change for the better. Thank you for the leadership that you're providing the cooperative, and really appreciated. I mean, this case is, for me, it's a roller coaster when you look at the facts of this case. And it is, yeah, it's an interesting ride on a roller coaster. So there are definitely two chapters that I see with the facts of this case. And as I said, chapter 2 is a lot better than chapter 1. The precedent that this case creates is very important. And so that's something that I look at carefully with any order is, if we make this decision now, how is this going to affect cases in the future, the incentives that utilities have, that sort of thing. And this is a very important one. And like I said, we don't have an order that we're prepared to vote on today. I do want to thank the parties for providing the commission an option here to move past this entire proceeding. And thank you for being here, especially on short notice. So those are my closing statements. Commissioner O'Connell, do you have anything you'd like to share?
No, I mean, I know we still have a vote in front of us, so I don't think I'll save my speeches for there. There's one observation, though, is key part of leadership is accepting the challenge, and that's what I heard you say. So thank you for doing that.
Anything further? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
And thumbs up. Are we good to okay. Okay. All right. Next, we will move on to our discussion item, and we have Ms. Miranda Mascareñas to present the 2025 audit results.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Good to see you all. So I am here again before you to present the results of our fiscal year 25 single audit, which is our federal awards audit. If you remember when I presented back in February, our financial statement audit, we were unable to disclose the results of our federal single audit due to the federal shutdown that occurred last calendar year. So now we have completed our federal audit, and I can now disclose the results of those audits, of that audit. I am happy to disclose that our audit again had no audit findings, and we did receive an unmodified opinion on our federal awards. They did audit approximately $1.6 million in our federal expenditures for fiscal year 25. So this is the first year that we have had the audits under two separate covers, and I'm hoping going forward that we won't see this again, as the audits will hopefully be combined going forward. So the auditors can do their work timely moving forward. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
And just to clarify, that I think you said, and I know the answer to this, but you said we did receive an unmodified opinion.
Mr. Chair, yes, that is
Yeah.
correct. And an unmodified opinion is the best opinion we can receive from the auditors.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on the audit. I also want to thank staff throughout the agency for doing an incredible job in, making sure that we have the best audit results that we can get. I know it's a lot of work to, go through and work with the auditors and make sure that we have, all our check all the boxes, but it's also really hard work to make sure that this is a practice that is going on in the entire agency, and everybody who works at this agency or is responsible for these positive results. And so please keep that up. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Commissioners, any discussion?
I would just say the split audit gives you the opportunity to highlight the good work of everybody twice, but so there's the silver lining in that cloud. So thank you.
Just echo the comments that have already been said, that getting an audit, a clean audit is certainly a goal. It's something that I'm sure Miranda expects, but it does take a lot of work and effort because it requires a lot of attention to detail to get that type of audit. And the people that we have on your staff are a real asset to the commission and to this agency. And it's reflected in the audit that we receive. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and I certainly know that Miranda expects this. We expect this as well from employees, in case that wasn't clear. I know our chief of staff expects this, and your coworkers expect it. And so, I'm just proud of people who work at this agency for the good work that they do. So thank you for the presentation. And are those results posted on the website or?
Mr. Chair, we are working on getting them uploaded to the website. The full audit report, the financial statement audit, as well as the single audit will be posted on our website. They are also posted on the state auditor's website, so people can look them up there.
Okay.
And they are public record.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on then to communications with Chief of Staff.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Is that just me? Good afternoon, commissioners. Excited to come and share some things that are happening in the agency. I'm going to start with probably the most exciting news for all of us, and that is Ms. Mascareñas has been working with GSD to get an architect on contract and is actively working on the design plans for the Gonzalez building, our permanent home in Santa Fe. We've all been waiting for this with bated breath for the last 3 years. And so it's really exciting to see progress on that. We have a plan in place to get the planning phase done by the end of June. As always, things could come up and push that plan out a bit, but we are hopeful that we are making good and rapid progress on that. So that's very exciting. Thank you. Miranda. Also want speak in Miranda's shop still, we have furniture planning to be delivered to this hearing room, so it'll be more populated with like actual rows of tables and chairs and other hearing room furniture that is currently scheduled for May 8th. That also, as things happen, could get pushed back, but we're hopeful though that will happen shortly. The operating budget is due on May 1st, and so we will be meeting with each of you to talk about what that looks like for FY27. Still in Miranda's world, because this is the time of year for it, contracts that we want services or goods for before June 30th must be in place by May 1st. That date is shockingly near. So if you are working, if you or your staff members or anybody who's listening to this is working on a contract, know that those have to, like, we should be submitting those to be in process this week, next week, because it does take some time and they must be fully executed and in place before May 1st. And then last but not least, we are rapidly approaching the end of our 3-year strategic plan. That this is the last year for that. So what we will be doing is a debrief or a strategic look back to see what we've achieved, what we maybe fell short on, what we've learned over the last 3 years before we go into the next 3-year strategic plan. So that hopefully will be happening this spring, the look back, and then this fall, we should anticipate entering into a 3-year strategic planning process. Once again, those 3 years went real fast. With that, I'm happy to stand for questions.
Lots of good and exciting work going on. Thank you for your leadership and all of that. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Communications with commissioners is next on the agenda. I don't think I have any. I mentioned the panels that I was planning to be on. I had a discussion yesterday in Austin, Texas on transmission, and realized that, so just so people are aware, kind of the way we've divided the discussion about transmission, given that we have SPS in the Eastern Interconnection and PNM and El Paso Electric in the Western Interconnection. I've been focusing more on the Western stuff, and first Commissioner O'Connell and now Commissioner Nybert have working on the Eastern Interconnection stuff. And so I had signed up for this to speak on this panel and realized kind of late that they wanted me to talk about the Eastern stuff. So I worked with Agata and did a crash course on everything that, not everything, but like the consolidated planning process, which, by the way, I'm very excited about now that it's been approved by FERC. And so anyway, that was a good discussion. For me, it was good to be able to grow my brain a little bit about, what we're doing. I know that we have different responsibilities. We can't, each do it all. And so I really appreciate that we are able to work collaboratively. But anyway, that was an opportunity for me, and I'll continue on with the panels that I've signed up for, and then hopefully not do some for a while. But I think it's important to make sure that we're talking to people about what we're doing here in New Mexico, because we're doing a lot of really good work, and the region and in other parts of the country, people need to know that. I think that it's great for an opportunity for us to learn what others are doing that we could use here. But I find that people are also very appreciative of us sharing our experience because we have things that we can share that other people could learn from. And in many ways, it's clear that we're doing good work with transmission, wildfire mitigation, many other areas that we're paying attention to and should be. So that's my part of the discussion, commissioners.
Yeah, apparently it's my turn now because I got a whole page of stuff between now and next meeting. First thing, as soon as this meeting's over, heading over to Balloon Fiesta Park because REIA has a event today called Electrify New Mexico, and I'm gonna be on a panel with Chief Staff Troy Corey and John Kreinkamp from the Utility Division staff, and be an opportunity to just talk about things we've been talking about here, you know, the modernization efforts on the agency and how things have changed in 3 years and what maybe we see coming forward. So looking forward to that. And then head to Chicago on Monday and Tuesday is one of those Northwestern University electricity dialogues. The theme of that event is planning in a time of uncertainty. So, you know, the things we're struggling with are not unique to us. And I'm going to moderate a panel on electric load forecasting. So that should, I'm sure everybody will tell me, it's easy, right? There's no issues with load forecasting. So looking forward to that. Then next week, the week following, you know, April 19th and 20th is the NMSU Current Issues Conference, which you highlighted last time. I'm going to be a responder on a panel about cross-sector utility modernization, you know, how our water, gas, electric utilities, as they're modernizing, doing things that help the other utilities also grow in this world we're in right now. So that, looking forward to that. And then the next day is U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Energy Summit, which I think both of you are participating in. Also, I'm going to be in a panel on Tuesday that's designed to talk about affordability in this era where data centers are one of the things the electric system needs to build out for. And it was interesting in the prep for that is like, we actually had one of the early hyperscalers in the Meta data center in Los Lunas, but then we haven't had any for a while. So comparing what was done when Meta was started versus what is, if there is such a thing, best practices now will be, I think, great to participate in that discussion and learn from the other commissioners on that panel. And then April 23rd is our next open meeting. And then we go from there to, there's the CREPC YRAP in San Diego. And then I've signed up for another Institute of Regulatory Law Economics class that'll be in Utah. So I'll go from San Diego. We'll do something about the open meeting, I guess, when we're in San Diego, and then go to Utah so it'll be a week out of town. And then I'm home, so looking forward to that too. Meanwhile, I'm trying to voluntold commissioners to take panel moderation responsibilities for the Western Conference of Public Service Commissioners. Both of you gentlemen are my back pocket, so I'm trying to avoid you moderating half the panels. So that's what I'm working on right now. But you've both, I've talked to you both. You both will have a large role at that thing, but you might have a larger role than I will tell you have right now. So if you want to avoid that, schmooze your fellow Western commissioners. So anyway, that's what I got.
I guess that will be our challenge, is to get other people to step up to the plate then. A few things. Last week, Claire got to take a helicopter ride, and Mackley was there, and myself. We took a tour of the new Nextera 345 kV line that's being built in eastern New Mexico and West Texas. And Claire got to go up in the helicopter and see and inspect. She actually got to inspect the line, that portion that was being built or had been completed. And then I guess by hook and crook, they weren't going to allow me to go up in a bucket truck at first, but then later they said they got approval for me to go up in a big cage and took me up to the top of a 140-foot tower that they were still working on and getting a unique perspective of those transmission lines up close. I told them that I would never view a transmission line the same after being right there where the conductor meets the insulator. The size of those things are enormous, and when you're driving by or on the ground, you don't get the sense of how big those things are. In fact, they gave us each a piece of conductor, and so there'll be some in the office, I'm sure, here in a little while, that you guys can see how big that conductor wire is that's on that 345 kV line. Also, last week I attended the GTI Energy Public Advisory Committee that I got roped into by Commissioner Fegan from South Dakota, and found that that was a very interesting position and group. GTI is an organization that tests all the apparatus involving gas pipelines, particularly gas distribution lines, gas appliances, make sure they're safe, make sure that the components fit together and work well. And it was eye-opening, all the work and effort that goes into keeping our gas appliances and gas utilities safe. Doing a lot of experiments right now regarding blending of hydrogen, its impact on the metallurgy, its impact on appliances and the apparatus, and they're doing a lot of experiments to see what type of mixture is tolerable by the various components that are in our natural gas systems. Yesterday I attended the AI conference put on by DOIT, Department of Technology here at the state, and I need to talk to Choy a little bit about some of the things that were said at that conference, because there may hold some ability for us to incorporate some of that artificial intelligence in some of the things that we do to help, as I said, do things better and faster than we're currently doing them. And so I'll report to her on that. Tomorrow, I'll be at an education presentation from the Southwest Power Pool, getting ready for the meeting next week. And next week, Agatha, Angela, and I will be in New Orleans at the Southwest Power Pool meetings, and dealing with continuation of issues that Commissioner O'Connell's wrestled with for many years, and including a very large line. The first 765 kV line that's scheduled for this part of the world is going to be in our backyard. So very expensive projects. And from what I understand, it will make that 345 kV line that I just went to the top of and Claire got to fly over, it will dwarf that line. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then I was going to say that Commissioner O'Connell's putting us all to work on the Western Conference, and while he asked for us to sign up for things we thought we could do, I hope he realizes we gave him a bigger list than we're actually anticipating having to do. So hopefully we can get some of our commissioners from the Western United States to take the lead on a lot of those topics. But appreciate the time and effort that Commissioner O'Connell and staff are putting into making that a success, and to put us in a good light as gracious host and appreciate the work and effort that's going in and personally, thank you for until now, keeping me out of the loop. So thank you. A lot going on and appreciate all the hard work that's being done by everybody. Thanks.
I think I've been telling folks about this Western Conference, and it applies to helicopters and bucket trucks, is launching is optional, landing is mandatory, right? So, and it's fascinating, if you're in a hot air balloon, you cannot see a power line because the wire, looking down, the wire does not have contrast to the ground. So the best you can do is see the power pole. So I know that's something P&M does every fall, is have a big safety exercise, but until you're in that experience, like where'd this mammoth thing go? You just can't see it from above.
Well, you won't see me on a hot air balloon, so fine. So the Western Conference, which we're hosting and Commissioner O'Connell is leading, that will be here. We've already mentioned the Current Issues Conference and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Energy Conference. There's also in May, there's going to be the SPP RSC meeting in Albuquerque, and also
I'm going to hunt that meeting.
and we're also going to have the CAISO and Western Energy Markets Governing Body meeting here in New Mexico in June, and also the Regional Issues Forum for CAISO's market. So a lot going on, and it'll be exciting. So
The world's gonna
that's it. We're adjourned.